It's the 21st century, and it's time for you to break free from the old ideas, the old beliefs, the old shackles that have been holding you back and keeping you bound in misery and failure. It's time to learn the truth about your power and about what's really going on in the world. Everything that you see and experience is a reflection of what's going on inside of you. Nothing more, but nothing less. Learn the truth. Change your life. Change the planet. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Reality Changer Radio. I'm your host, Dickey, and tonight we're going to explore something a little more down the rabbit hole and to discuss, as you saw at the topic, who is the real boogeyman. And what I mean by that is that for thousands of years, people have been associating traumatic experiences with the supernatural of one sort or another. It has gone so far as to invent gods and goddesses that handle things like, for instance, lightning was handled by Zeus and by Thor. And so if there was a lightning strike, well, the gods were upset. Earthquakes, mudslides, fires, you name it, anything that seemed out of the norm and out of your control obviously had to do with a god or a goddess or a demon or something like that. Even up to the time of the Middle Ages, when we had the witch hunts because they were Satan's assassins. And if you had an epileptic seizure, which we now know is an epileptic seizure, then it was an obvious sign that you were possessed by the devil. If you had any kind of erratic behavior or rebellion at one time or another throughout history, then you were obviously under the possession of demons or involved with something that was labeled as evil. There had to be evil because it was the only way to convince everybody that mankind's version of good was the only game in town. A lot of historians have written about how the Catholic Church demonized some of the pagan gods and goddesses of the Celts in order to take over and brainwash and just turn them to Christianity as opposed to paganism, which they were. And we all know how that's worked out throughout the centuries. But another side note on that one, check out your facts here. A lot of the churches that were built on sacred Celtic religious sites. And it was an effort to help brainwash and to go into their psyche as far as, look, we're not telling you you're wrong, it's just you don't understand what's right. And look at some of the travels that have gone on throughout the world. The Catholic Church and other churches, but mainly the Catholic Church, has burned, tortured, and murdered millions and millions of people around the world for centuries in the name of religion. And in the name of, you guys are heathens, you're dealing with demons, you don't understand what's good, what's right, what's real. And so all of the things that you would typically label as evil or bad, religious zealots throughout the ages have used those things themselves in order to further their own cause. It really had nothing to do with religion on a whole. It was a personal vendetta just as a power struggle. And that's become quite obvious throughout the ages as you actually do some fact-finding on history and find out exactly what took place, as opposed to what some people would like you to think took place. There's also various versions of the Bible. You know, anyone with a reasonable mind would have to say, why would you need different versions of one book? Why would you need a King James version? Why would you need this version or that version? And if you were to read each version page by page, you would see that they're not all alike. And again, mankind picked and chose what they wanted in that version of the Bible and what they didn't want. And it all had to do with a power struggle. And they labeled it heresy and, communion with the devil and that whole thing. But that was only to spark emotion in their superstitious followers and to bring them along as the sheep that they were, so that they would follow along and say, yeah, you're right, burn them all. Burn them all. They're all heathens. God will protect us. Burn them all. It even goes so far as to become a joking matter as time goes on and we get into the 18th and 19th century and the 20th century. In fact, I don't know how many of you will remember this, but in the 60s, a stand-up comedian named Flip Wilson became very famous. And one of the things he became famous for is his appearances on Rowan and Martin Laugh-In. And this appearance, he would play a judge and he'd play a bunch of other characters. But where I'm going with this is one of his statements became super famous, and it was, "The devil made me do it." Now, the only reason that that's funny is if you have a background knowledge of what the devil can do to you and make you do things under his influence. And you don't get that without getting that heritage and all of that stuff passed down from generation to generation, just like any other saga or mythological story. It's passed on and passed on and passed on. And so when you get to a point where you think right, it doesn't become funny unless you already know that most of that is crap. And then it's funny that somebody's making fun of that. That's the new excuse. Well, the devil made me do it, so you can't prosecute me. And it was hilarious. I loved the way he did it. I loved Flip Wilson. I wish he was still with us. But my point is it all real? As time has gone by, we have discovered more and more things are not the devil. The devil didn't do this. Thor doesn't control that. Science, in its infinite wisdom, it's got its bonuses, but it's got its cons also. But one of its bonuses is to be able to go and stage experiments to prove or disprove what has been a popular myth. And this brings me to another important part of this. Who's the real boogeyman? I want you to think for a minute about the changes that happen to the human body when your belief system kicks in and you're given a placebo drug that you really believe is the real thing and that it will heal you. And your desire to be healed and your willingness to believe takes over and outweighs any doubt that could be in your mind, even though it could be in your mind still, because that's how that works. Whichever one has more emotional impact and belief is going to win. Which is why placebo drugs don't always work. But the fact that they do work is amazing. And it's also one of those by accident proofs that the human mind and the belief system can do things that were earlier thought unbelievable. No, that's not possible, right? Every time they do a clinical study and they do placebo drugs, the placebo drug always does as good as the drug it's being measured against or better. Now, neither one always work. Okay, and like I said before, if your doubt or your fear is greater than your desire to be healed or your belief that that is the the cure, then it's not going to work for you. But don't misunderstand me here. Nothing will work for you. The real drug won't work, and the fake drug won't work. Okay? Because if you look at any of those clinical studies they do, nothing works 100% of the time. Not one thing. Not the drug that's being tested, not the drug it's being tested against, and not the fake placebo drug. Okay? So now, wrap this in your mind that when you do have that placebo drug and it works, what's going on here is a molecular change in your body solely induced by your own mind. Okay? So you're physically getting changed just by your thoughts and your beliefs. All right? So, and there's no scientific proof that that placebo drug has any effect. It's all conjecture, but there you have it. There's 48% of the test study, and they're all cured. How did that happen, right? I don't know if you guys have heard the show about the one I did about the soda water, where they took all those bottles of soda water and hit up just regular people walking by, convinced them by lies and by showing them what they have been programmed to believe is real, and they convinced them it was a strength drink, and everybody that they got to do it increased their strength by at least 50%, sometimes 100%. Right? And they hit this hammer on the thing, and the bell went up, and it rang, and all this other stuff. But it was actual proof that they changed their physiology because of their belief in something that they were ingesting was going to change it for them. Okay? Hypochondriacs. Eventually, most hypochondriacs get sick from something when all of the modern medicine doctors that they go to say there's nothing wrong. For years, doctors would come to the house. They don't do that anymore. They don't make house calls anymore. But how many people have heard of the stories where grandma's got this phony illness and she's only doing it to get sympathy? Well, here's the deal. The doctor will come and give her sugar pills, and it's fine. It's fine because somebody paid attention to her and somebody believed her. And I'll lay you 10 to 1 that the ills and aches and pains that she is complaining about are very real to her, and they actually hurt. Just like the hypochondriac who will eventually end up in the hospital. It's the same thing. So I want you to take all of that and understand that your mind, your beliefs and your thoughts and feelings and emotions can control your very existence for good or for bad. Now, with that being said, let's make a comparison. If I truly believe that a bottle of soda water will make me 10 times stronger than I am, and I drink it and I do something miraculous, well, two things are going to happen here. Number one, my belief system in that sugar water is going to be tripled. And number two, I have been physically altered by my own mind. The sugar water had nothing to do with it. It was my perception. It was my belief of the sugar water. Now, stay with me. What if, well, wait, before I go there, what about all the times when they burned witches at a stake just because they believed what they were seeing was makings of the devil? And all the times that people that had convulsions, well, that's the devil. Hang him, shoot him, burn him. He's involved with the evil. All the plague, it was all about evil, and it was all about God not loving us. In fact, the Old Testament talks about a vengeful God and all this other stuff, and it's all crap. It's all crap that was designed to explain the unknown and the extraordinary because people didn't know about what they could do. It's designed to explain everything from a standpoint of a victim who has absolutely no power over their existence. Now we know that's not true. We know we have quite a bit of power over our existence, if for no other reason than placebo drugs. And it's amazing the stuff we could do. Nowadays, you hear all about, well, if you stay in a crappy mood, that's the day you're going to create. If you stay in a happy mood, that's the day you're going to create. Well, and it's true. But are you not, by that statement alone, are you not changing your environment to match your own emotional register? And if you can change your environment to match your emotional register, what happens when you firmly believe there's a boogeyman under the bed? What happens when you firmly believe that this person or that person is a Satanist? How do you even know what that term means unless you've already grasped some knowledge of what Satan is and what evil is and all this other stuff that you've been programmed with, okay? You didn't just wake up one morning and go, hey, guess what I know? No, this is stuff that was handed down, like I mentioned in the beginning. Just like any other crap, handed down. So let's take a moment here and just reflect on the concept that if you can change your environment to match your emotional register, could you not create a boogeyman where there was not one because you believe there is one? Just like a couple of weeks ago, I talked about people going through a haunted house, and one person doesn't believe in ghosts, and the other person is scared to death because that's all they believe. And they go through the same house. It's not really haunted, and the one guy doesn't have anything happen to him. And the other guy's like, oh my God, did you hear that? Did you see that? Did you hear that? Oh, I'm out of here. And the other person thinks they're crazy. This kind of stuff goes on all the time. But the process is the same. Your environment is changing based on your emotional register and your belief systems. Right in the same building, two people can have different experiences of the same thing, just because one believes and one doesn't believe. With the placebo drugs and the real drugs, people in the same room, in the same clinical study, can have different reactions and experiences with the same thing because some believe and some don't believe. So what I want you to do for a minute here with all of this is I want you to suspend everything that you've been taught about good and evil, just for the sake of this show. And I want you to get your mind open. I want you to open up that top lid and uncrank the screws, pull back the top, and let's explore this for just a little bit. What if all the stuff that's going on is because we've decided a misinterpretation of free will? What if God really does exist, but not like anyone has ever talked about him? What if God is just a thing? What if God is just the essence, is source, is universe that we come from? And the free will is real. But what if the free will isn't what we've been programmed to believe it is? What if the free will is this? You have an option of using the power that is inherent in you as a manifestation of God. You have the option of using it. That's your free will. What if that was your free will? And that if along the way, something comes along like a flood and wipes everybody out, and all of a sudden people forget where they come from, and stuff is going down again, and all of a sudden they're like, oh, why is that happening? And somebody gets angry and there's a storm, okay? And do you follow me here? What if your free will choice was to whether or not you're going to use the power you were born with as a manifestation of God to rightly qualify your energy so that you never have anything that would be uncomfortable, uneasy, horrible, or evil? And what if the only evil and the real boogeyman here is our own ignorance about the truth of our existence? What if the devil really does exist for only those that believe in it? What if there never was one? I'm asking you to take a leap of faith here with me and just keep an open mind. What if there was never really any evil? And the only bad things that happen are because people are using their own energy in an incorrect manner. And what if the only reason, because we are so powerful, what if the only reason that anything that resembles our programmed belief of evil, what if the only reason that happens is because we have such a strong programmed belief of what evil looks like? Just as much as we have a strong programmed belief of what we look like if we've increased our strength by 200%. We know how that would feel. We know what that would look like. And if we honestly believe that a bottle of soda water is going to get us there, then what do you think is going to happen? I've seen it in action. I'll tell you exactly what happens. You become 200% stronger and you're able to prove it on the external to everybody watching you. So what if that same person strongly believes in the devil and all the programmed hype and all the thousands of years of images and words and scenarios? What if that same person believes deeply in the existence of evil as much as they believe deeply in what it looks like for them to be 200% stronger? Do you think that that person is going to have issues with good and evil? Don't you think that person is going to have situations happen where there's absolutely no explanation for them other than the fact that there's some sinister force that got in their way? And wouldn't it be possible for that person to actually create their own sinister force that changes their environment? Think about it for a minute. If I can change my environment based on my beliefs and emotions and feelings so that I have a good day or a crappy day, that's a lot of power. That's a lot of power. That takes the power away from everybody else. So I can't point fingers and say, you ruined my day. That same power, think about it. Bear with me, humor me. That same power can create beings and worlds. Couldn't it? Why couldn't it? If you say no, why couldn't it? If I could change the type of day I'm going to have by changing my belief system about whether or not I can control it and all this other stuff, then why can't I create a demon by believing it? Why can't I create the presence of evil by believing in it strong enough? Now, I'm only going to be able to create it for me, but it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. See, I told you so. And it could be, and things could happen to you that don't happen to others. A great example of this is a movie where you see somebody being thrown up against the wall and everyone's like, oh my God, it's the devil. And nobody else is touched. Or you've got people in the family that have that happen to them. And then one of the little kids that are impressionable get freaked out of their head because they've already been told in their redneck church that the demon is up their butt most of the time and that they don't deserve anything and that they need to repent. So now let's take that same little kid and something like that happens. How much of their belief system is going to be reinforced that there actually is demons and the devil? So my question here, who's the real boogeyman? Who's the real boogeyman? What if the real boogeyman is ignorance to our existence? What if the real boogeyman is the fact that we are like little children with loaded guns, and some of us know where to aim, but most of us don't. The only thing all of us know is that we're supposed to pull the trigger. What if that is the real boogeyman? What if that is the real essence of evil? What if? You tell me. I would love to hear your thoughts on this. And if you're not 100% sure about everything that went on during this broadcast, replay it and stop and give yourself some time to really let this sink in. Because I'm going to tell you something, folks. You cannot be powerful enough to control your day and things around you and manifest this and manifest that and not be powerful enough to ruin your life. You can't have it both ways. Power is power, and maybe the real free will is whether or not you're going to use it for your own personal good or evil. It's your choice. So until next time, I want to thank you all for listening. I hope that these broadcasts enlighten you and give you something to think about and talk about with your family and your friends. Discuss it. Keep an open mind. Keep that lid open. Just a reminder, whatyouthink.com is the website. We have delayed the opening of a second part of our store with the classes and the hypnotherapy because we want to bring an ultimate experience to you, and we don't want to have you look at this and go, what's this? And then say, okay, so we're ready for some more. So if you go to the website and click on the products link, you're going to see a lot of the stuff that's featured. We have a featured link in the store, featured links section. And what you'll see right now on the website is the products that are highlighted in those featured links. So go to the website, check out the products. The great thing about this is most of those products have a free webinar or a free class or a free download. So there's no risk to you at all. I highly recommend all of those products. I've tried 99% of them myself and endorse them out the door. Okay? So, until next time, thank you all so much for listening. I love you all. I hope you all have a wonderful life with absolutely no sinister influence whatsoever. God bless you.